Live.
Alrighty.
Hello, everyone.
Everybody.
I'm Nate Avery. Yeah, I'm outbound product manager for a few of our CI/CD tools here at Google. Cloud Build, Cloud Deploy, Artifact Registry, and I have a very awesome guest here, product manager for Artifact Registry. Rishi, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I am Rishi. I am the product manager for Artifact Registry, as well as our legacy and now deprecated product, Container Registry. I have been with Google for a little over 2.5 years, and I am based out of Los Angeles, mostly working remote, but sometimes going to our offices here at Venice, which is right by the beach. Quite nice.
I did not know it was right next to the beach.
Yes, actually, walking distance. It's funny because I had never gone in or never had gone outside the office, like towards the beach. And then one day I was like, oh, I can actually like work from here if I wanted to. So
nice. So, when you're not at the beach and you got to do stuff about artifacts, Artifact Registry is a really cool product because it's like this universal tool for storing stuff. Can you tell us like what are the best use cases for it?
Yeah, so just for a little bit of context, assuming most of our audience might have some familiarity with Artifact Registry, but Artifact Registry is our basically universal solution for building and managing artifacts in a secure manner. And really, we see the most kind of most common use case and where customers see the most benefit is if users have a strong footprint in GCP, specifically if they deploy to the Google runtime, so large footprint in GKE or Cloud Run, Artifact Registry really gives you a very optimized and secure workflow that allows you to, build your artifacts and then, very easily deploy them to the runtime. One of the, advantages that we have when, we look at other solutions in the market, I mean, there's obviously, the obvious one is, of course, you don't need to, manage another solution, it's integrated with, your billing, it's all kind of cloud native, but, beyond that, right, Artifact Registry allows you to basically, manage your, artifacts, the repositories that house those artifacts using the same principles that you use across GCP. So, for example, for things like IAM, right, you're able to use IAM-based policies to control permissions for your repositories. In addition to that, we support, a number of horizontals, right? So, for example, a lot of enterprise customers use VPC service controls to control things that are coming in, right? So, or data exfiltration, right? So you're able to add those controls in Artifact Registry, which is difficult to do. Having those controls, difficult to do without maintaining a lot of custom infrastructure outside of Google Cloud or within a cloud native platform more generally.
Yeah. So like, honestly, I can see, just identity management controls being one of the best.
Yes.
One of the features that people really gravitate towards because it does simplify things, right? No one wants to have to create and recreate accounts in multiple places. Now, when I kind of jokingly call it stuff when I think about artifacts, but really it's like it's containers, it's packages, it's all of the things that help a developer write and deploy their code. Can you get into a little bit about like which package types we support currently?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, like you said, artifacts can comprise of many different things. Fundamentally, an artifact is really what is produced after, a piece of code or package is built, right? So, it can be a Docker container, right? And that's, right now our most common use case in artifact registry. But it can also be language packages. So today we support Docker containers, we support Maven, NPM, and Python, and we also support operating system packages, which is APT and Yum, and then we actually also support a KFP format, which is kind of a niche use case, but on that's a Vertex AI format. So we
You
allow
can use it with data science.
support. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and I call it
Mhm.
niche, but I probably shouldn't because we know
Yeah.
how hot AI is in the market, so that has gained a lot of
Yeah.
adoption. And yeah, I mean, we're actually also, I mean, I can say this publicly, we're also looking at how we can manage AI artifacts as well in a better manner. Still early days there, but we're
Yeah.
looking at things like model management and things like that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool because, like, you said it yourself. We typically think about it as a place to store our Docker containers, but it really goes beyond that, right?
Yes.
You're talking about storing OS packages. So if you want to have your own patching repository locally, you can just point stuff to that. And
Yeah.
now you're able to consolidate a lot of those other systems where you were storing these types of things, and you have just one spot. That's really kind of neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, since that's a different type of use case, what else can you tell us that people may not be aware of with the product?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Mhm.
That I think container management, I believe, is kind of where this maybe even this industry
Mhm.
first started, right? Like
Yeah.
that was kind of and then there was additional need for even like managing language packages, which is left of kind of the packaging step inside a container, right?
Mhm.
Previously these things were just people just used to put them in storage and then
Yeah.
just in something like a GCS bucket, and then I think sooner rather than later people realize like, hey, we need to do things like rollbacks, we need a version management of all these artifacts, right? um
Yeah.
yeah, a couple of things to touch on. I think beyond the fact that artifact registry does support things beyond containers, a number of different package formats that we continue to expand. Dependency management has been a really core focus here for our team. We are building out the what I'd call industry leading capabilities for dependency management, among cloud vendors. And really, if you followed kind of our trajectory and what we've released, we have we of course have the remote and virtual repositories, which are now in GA. Right now, like on the remote repository side, there's just a list of predefined sources which you can
Mhm.
bring in, which is kind of parity with what is out there in the rest of the
Mhm.
market as far as cloud goes. But we are really working on expanding on those capabilities. So stay tuned. We're looking at yeah, actually I should more than looking at, we are going to be releasing in the future ability to define your own custom remotes, both public and private ones, where you'll be able to authenticate. We're also developing capabilities for internal remotes within artifact registry, so you'll be able to store basically cache repositories from different regions. This supports a number of use cases, and actually, for certain cases, reduces the need for you to replicate across multiple regions. Um,
Nice.
for managing egress costs and those types of cases. So, a lot of interesting things coming out. The other thing that I've mentioned is kind of on the security side, right? We talked about IAM. Security has been a very core tenet of just artifact registry. I don't say even beyond artifact registry, just across our whole DevOps portfolio. That's an area, we think, we have very strong, security controls here at Google. And, we like to take our learnings that we have internally out to the external market, because we very often customers want that as well. So, controlling things based on like IAM policies, repository level controls, which is only available in artifact registry, not in GCR. Those are some of our fundamental security features that we have today. Virtual repos is another call out, right? Through controlling priority order, you're able to basically, prevent against things like dependency confusion attacks. So,
hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Let's drill in on that confusion attack.
Mhm.
And I think that will help also some folks think about how they manage artifacts a little bit differently as well. Can you describe what that attack is and how it's able to be pulled off?
Yeah.
Or how we prevent it, rather?
Right. So basically, kind of at a high level, the way a dependency confusion attack works is that a hacker is somehow able to get knowledge of what the name of a private package is internally. And what they do is, because, a lot of software is dependent on public sources, right? So, your dependencies is they're calling public sources like Maven Central, which are not moderated or checked, right? Like, they might have some automated checks, but they don't actually have scanners, but hackers.
It's hard to catch everything, right?
Yeah, they can't catch everything. So a hacker will basically know the name of a private package, right? They will check in a public package by a malicious package, right? With the same name in a public repository. And when your build system, or when your build process pulls that package, it'll pull the malicious package from the public source instead of the private source. Now, what you can do with virtual repositories by setting priority order of things, you can basically say, always check my private sources before going out to any public sources. So you're able to prevent these kinds of dependency confusion attacks.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's interesting how people have adapted their policies and their the weird things that they do to try and sneak into an organization. And it's something so simple. It's like, I know you need this package. I'm gonna call it the same thing, put it here, and then you go look for it. So but it's really that ability to set where you look for your stuff that gets in the way. But I would think that also gives you, there are other reasons to do it, even if you're not worried about that. Like, there are performance advantages to that too, right?
Yeah. So I think, the other biggest advantages of virtual repositories is just management, right? So, people are pulling from, so many different sources. You don't want to have your clients and your developers have to keep updating all these sources where dependencies are coming from, right? So virtual repositories basically allow you to, aggregate these things under all the repositories under one endpoint, and then expose that to the user. On the performance side, remote repositories, right, is kind of our core feature there, which allows you to basically cache things locally close to where your developers are, where your runtimes are. This basically allows you to not depend on the reliability of, the upstream source, unless you need
Yeah.
need a new package, which, can be rare depending on your build processes. It allows for, increased reliability and for increased performance. So.
Nice. Yeah, that too is interesting. This whole idea of, how do we make things easier for people? And one
Mhm.
of the ways we can do that is like that aggregation point, like you said. You take all these
Yes,
different repos that people have to have and the cognitive load that puts on them, and you
that's
say,
right.
well, wait, you just have to remember this, right? And anywhere where you're maybe you shouldn't be doing this. If you're hard coding some things in some places, like maybe, when you tell your dev, when you roll out a dev machine, hey, this is where we go to get your stuff, it keeps that simple because then on the back end, you can make your changes. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm,
And, every time, if you have to pull in a new dependency or something,
mhm,
if you have to keep updating things, it becomes challenging. Also, keep in mind for enterprises, a lot of these things are controlled by a central team. So,
mhm,
just like here at Google as well, we're not allowed to bring in, any and all dependencies. So,
mhm.
it allows for a central management team to control, what kind of dependencies developers are actually, allowed to uh, bring into their organization as well in certain
Yeah,
cases.
nice. And then with those, with the custom repos, you'll be able to say, your upstream repos can be still your local repos. So it's not so much that you even need to be able to go out. It's just, hey, it's other sources inside the company as well.
Yeah, there's a variety of use cases for custom repositories, right? I mean, number one is, yes, there are like, the major repositories like Docker Hub, Maven Central, etc. But, there are other things, right, that customers use. Like you said, that some things are on premise. They might have, some self-hosted repository that, they just need to bring in, artifacts from there into artifact registry.
Mhm,
There are other public repositories that don't fall under those buckets. There are open source the things like Quay, where
mhm. Yeah.
people often want to bring in artifacts from there. So there's just a plethora. Another use case actually, because which is very common, is that the reality is not everybody is going to be using artifact registry on its own and no other artifact management solution. When I had joined
Mhm,
Google, I would have not have thought that was the case, but I soon learned from talking to many customers.
mhm.
Yeah, like, there's other teams that have different artifact management solutions.
Yeah.
There's teams that are migrating from one to the other. And,
Mhm,
you know, our goal is not necessarily to always replace the artifact management vendors, right? That we
mhm,
actually consider them their partners, our
mhm,
partners more than competitors. So, this type of functionality also makes it easy for those people that don't want to replace Artifactory, right?
mhm.
Or I'm just using Artifactory as an
Yeah, yeah,
example.
yeah. But we'll say any other tool, any
Any
other
other
repo.
tool, right? Any other
Mhm,
tool.
mhm, mhm,
Artifactory being one of the
mhm,
most common ones.
mhm,
Shout out to
mhm.
JFrog for how much they've captured the market. But
Mhm.
we want to make it very easy for them to bring those artifacts in and manage them. So
Yeah. Yeah, because the world's a big place, and we're aware of it. We
yeah,
know, and we
yeah,
we want developers to be successful, and we operate in the real world, and that
mhm,
means, other stuff's out there, and we want to bring all that stuff together and make it easy for folks to get their code done. Because that's at the end of the day, that's all it is. It's about how do you get
that's
that
right.
stuff deployed, you know?
Absolutely, you hit the nail. You hit the
Yeah.
nail on the head. Our reason for being, and this is not just for Artifact Registry, this is across, our entire organization is, number one, meet developers where they are, meet
Mhm,
users where they are, and make it very, very easy for people to um, go from, their code
mhm,
to deploying their applications in production. The tools they use in between, whether it's artifact registry, a combination of other tools, it really doesn't matter. Our job is to facilitate that process and make it easy for our customers to be able to deploy, run, and manage those applications.
Nice. Oh, that reminds me. It's probably a good time to, uh, since we kind of started talking about transitioning, uh,
Yeah.
remind folks about what the differences are between container registry and artifact registry.
Yeah, let me cover that at a high level.
Mhm.
I will let
Yeah.
people point people to our documentation if they want, additional
Mhm.
details, but a couple advantages that artifact registry provides. One I actually already touched on before is repository level controls, right? So
Mhm.
being able to manage repository level controls through IAM. This is something that was not available in uh, GCR, and you needed to manage permissions in GCS storage buckets, which many of our customers in GCR kind of found quite confusing. So that's and it really a lot more powerful there. Artifact registry in addition, it has its own API. That's
Mhm.
one of the things. So GCR did not have its own API, and basically it supported the Docker API, but that was it. An obvious one, of course, artifact registry supports a multitude of different formats. It is the
Mhm.
universal package management solution, which container registry, as its name suggests, is
Mhm.
only containers. That's an obvious one. The other
Mhm.
one that's super important for especially for larger customers that are operating at scale is around
Mhm.
regionality. So um, container registry only supports multi regions, right? Um,
Now,
and
what's a multi-region for folks who don't know?
yeah, so I actually don't know the exact technical
Mhm.
definition, but a multi-region basically consists of like a broader geography, like the
Mhm.
US or EU. We have multi-regions there, and
Mhm.
it comprises of various regions underneath it. Um, the run times, right, are not multi-regional, they're regional. And
Mhm.
GCP has basically gone towards the direction of, multi-regions are obviously not de-supported, but we are
Mhm.
suggested to use regions for any
Yeah.
future product
Yeah.
offering or
Just a
future
little more specificity to it. Yeah.
regions. So regions, on the other hand, allows you
Mhm.
to have specify a like granular geography like
Mhm.
US West 1, which will cover
Mhm.
certain states, right? So it's really
Mhm.
about the granularity. Um
Mhm.
and and
And the performance boost by
and
that, right? Like the latency
exactly
that you
right.
get. Yeah.
The reason for that is twofold, right? So
Mhm.
there's performance and costs.
Mhm. Yeah.
If you are storing your artifacts, especially if you're deploying to something like GK, co-locating
Mhm.
in the region that you are running those things at, is
Mhm.
that provides you with the most optimal performance. It provides you with cost optimization as well,
Mhm.
because if you've been tracking the GCS pricing changes, multi-regional to regional egress within the same continent is actually charged right now. So
Mhm.
um, you know those those cost optimizations, all as
Mhm.
customers scale, also begin adding up.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. So when you're more specific, you get better performance. You can save potentially. There's organizational cost
yeah.
savings. I mean, there's just a lot of reasons to do it, right?
Yeah, there is, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, the concept of multi-regions honestly is it's fairly interesting because I before I joined Google, I was a Google Cloud user, and
Mhm.
I actually never knew I was not an artifact registry user, but
Mhm.
I was actually not aware that multi-regions existed because we were mostly running like VMs, and we were always, you know, the specificity of, you know, being able to, you know, deploy things in regions was kind of always the architecture that we deployed. So it was interesting for me to also learn about, like, oh, we have this legacy, like, regional architecture that we're trying to move away from in our products. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I think back a lot of system designs, and a lot of it was that way. It's,
Yeah,
hey, I'm worried about maybe a couple spots on the East Coast,
right.
and maybe if I'm lucky, I can have a West Coast location. But you never really think about things in terms of like essentially an entire continent or multiple continents, and that's really where a lot of our customers are. And that specificity makes a lot of sense because
Yeah.
you need to know where your stuff is. And a
Yeah,
lot of times there are regulations around where your stuff is kept as well.
that's
Mhm,
also right. Yeah, that's also
mhm,
right. Yeah, I think, and you know, performance overall has also gotten more and more critical,
mhm,
right? I mean,
mhm.
you know, you think back in the 90s, and you know, people were okay with, you know, a website taking a minute to load. Now, you know, for a lot of our customers, the e-commerce customer, for example, forget about it,
Mhm.
right? That's like,
Yeah.
that can be millions of dollars of revenue loss. So, you know, performance and even, you know, reliability, right? Like, you know, these kinds of
Yeah.
things have gotten more and more important. Like, it used to be okay for, you know, services to be down for routine
Mhm.
maintenance. That's no longer
Yeah.
okay anymore. You can't shut your website down at 1 a.m. to do
Mhm.
maintenance. So, you
Yeah,
know,
which is wild, but,
yeah,
yeah, it's the expectations have just kinda changed. You
yeah,
know, those old websites, like, yeah, it's a minute to load, and it's like a gray background with, like, blinking text.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
"Why did this take so long?" Um,
exactly, exactly.
so, alright, so since I got you here, and you have, you are in a great position to speak about the future of this product, and some of the things that you'd like to see it do, and where it can
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
Is there anything you can kind of hint at or tease or
yeah.
yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So, I do want to, you know, I talked about a lot of the kind of, you know, cool new, like, feature level stuff
Mhm,
that's happening. But you know, I kind of want to talk at a higher level about the broader strategic initiative, and then
mhm,
I'll also I'll talk a little bit in generalities about, you know,
mhm.
about things that are coming. But
All right. I mean,
you
we
know,
got next in a month, so you don't get in trouble. we
yeah,
can we
yeah,
can
yeah, yeah,
we can tell
definitely.
people to come back and wait.
I have to be careful. I have to be careful, especially with, you know, I don't want to steal the thunder for, you know,
Yeah.
things that are coming up at next.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so you know, one of the core strategic kind of initiatives, which you probably have heard about, if you attended Next or kind of tracked our press releases, is
Mhm,
you know, we are putting a lot of emphasis on our third party partnerships. And the reason why we're doing this is really for the customer, right? We realized that, you know, people are, especially in the DevOps world, they are not using Google DevOps products end to end, right? That's
yeah.
just the reality of the market, right?
Yeah.
And we,
But to be fair,
yeah,
very few people use any one product end to end
exactly.
when it comes to DevOps. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Mhm,
people are using a plethora, a mix, right, of
mhm,
often Google products and tools, third
mhm,
party products and tools,
mhm,
open source tools. And like we discussed, our job, right, is ultimately to enable people to deploy their applications to production by using all those tools, right?
mhm,
So we are, you know, making a lot of effort to, you know, integrate well with, you know, a number of different tools that are and solutions that are available in the market. Now I'll get into, you know, some of the specifics. I
mhm.
can't discuss kind of exactly the features that are coming. But
Okay.
last next um we announced our partnership with GitLab. We've
Mhm,
been really closely working with them on a number of capabilities that we will be releasing next. So stay tuned for those.
Yeah.
They can't get into details, but what I can say is that we are looking at the critical user journeys um, that customers have when using, for example, GitLab alongside Google Cloud, right? And we
Yeah.
are simplifying the deployment. It's all about how do we make it seamless, frictionless, in the most optimized fashion? How do we bring applications to the runtime? So those are the things that we're optimizing for, and yeah, there's some really
Yeah.
exciting things that are coming there.
Nice. Yeah. I think we avoided getting in trouble there. Yeah.
I
It's
think so.
like, yeah,
Uh,
everything that's been said has been said publicly in some form, somewhere.
yes, everything has been, and it was actually nice. I was surprised that we announced the partnership so early. And it
Yeah.
actually, when I saw that, it made me a little scared as a PM, especially working at kind of with boots on the ground. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
we're announcing this. We haven't
Mhm.
built, but I'm really glad we actually did that,
Yeah.
because now we're able to kind of signal to the market, and signal to our customers that, hey, this is coming.
Yeah.
We're working on this, and then really kind of build up the excitement and awareness
Mhm.
around um those pieces of functionality, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and people need time to plan.
Yes.
When you're looking at these types of technologies, your CI/CD pipeline,
Yeah.
that stuff, it gets so entrenched into everything you do
Yeah.
that you're not going to just change on a dime. And so, if you kind of think about where you might be heading, it's nice to have that early
E-
signal.
Exactly. And one more thing I want to say on the 3P partnership, but yes,
Mhm.
we're gonna develop a set of capabilities that
Mhm.
are, obviously, solve critical problems for our
Mhm.
customers. But this is beyond just, features that we are releasing on a
Mhm.
particular time, right? It's really a mindset, right? Because that we
Yeah.
are taking here at Google, saying that we want to enable integrations and better together stories with as many partners as we can, and we want to make that experience seamless among all the different types of tools that people are using. Of course, in
Yeah.
practicality, that's difficult, but that's the North Star. That's our ambition.
Nice. Yeah. I'm glad you set it up and not me.
Yeah, yeah,
But I mean, that is it, right? It's how do we make all this stuff better? How do we make it all work?
yeah.
How do we keep things moving? And yeah, we everyone wants to have a better experience with the stuff with the investments that they've already made and the investments that
That's
they're
right.
going to make.
That,
And yeah.
that's right. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, right? I want to call out like investments they've made, right? That's the thing. In my view, and I guess maybe I feel strongly about this, that
Mhm,
I think
mhm,
if you get into a rip and replace conversation with
mhm.
customers, especially large customers, you've kind of lost the battle, right? Like,
Yeah.
there again, it's a generality. I'm not saying in certain cases, customers may come to us and say, hey, we want
Mhm,
to get rid of this solution. Help
mhm.
us do it.
Yeah.
We'll help you. But if we have to convince customers, oh, get rid of your solution that by the
Mhm,
way, that's entrenched across your DevOps pipeline, and
mhm.
invested, time and effort in, you're maintaining this, that is very tough,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
it's very tough, and for enterprises that can be like years worth of effort for
Mhm,
a seemingly what you would think maybe a small solution, right? Like
mhm.
artifact management, for example, right?
Yeah.
The big scheme of things, like artifact management, one solution amongst all the just replacing that, when you get a rip and replace conversation, like that can be, your 6 months, years, over a year worth of time that, large enterprises take. So, I think this kind of strategic vision is really, really key to
Yeah.
meet our customers where they are.
Yeah. Like, I think people underestimate the difficulty in changing a product when there are links to it and you
Yes,
don't know where all those links are.
absolutely,
You
absolutely,
know?
absolutely. Which is why, for large companies and enterprises, like, every change, they really have to
Mhm.
think through that, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, what
because
are the downstream impacts?
that's just how it is.
Mhm.
And I mean,
Yeah.
to be fair, that's how it is at Google, right? When
Yeah.
we evaluate, we
Yeah.
need to evaluate because
Mhm.
we're a large organization. That's
Yeah.
just the reality of it, right? So,
Yeah.
um,
Anywhere where you're gonna write code and other people can leverage that code is gonna be you gotta think about that, right?
yeah,
These systems, they work together. You gotta figure out, all right, well, who's impacted by this change?
exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And the more people that are impacted, the more things you
Yeah.
have to worry about. So that's
Yeah.
um,
Oh, I got one. There's one more thing we need to get to before time is up.
sounds good.
Generic repositories. The generic type. All right. Well, what's up with generic type?
Yeah.
What is
So
it? When do people use it? Why would they use it?
right, right.
Mhm,
So generic repositories are something. I'm not going to pretend like this is a
mhm.
super novel capability in
Yeah.
the market. Number of ISVs have it. Really the goal with generic repositories is that, we're not going to be able to natively support all artifact types, right? Generic repositories give you a way to store versioned artifacts without necessarily adhering to a particular format. For a lot of customers, even though if there is native integration possible, obviously that's better.
Mhm.
But for some customers, it's an okay workaround. That's one use case, right? Just an okay,
Mhm.
it's a
Yeah.
workaround for things that we don't support. Today you can, I believe, yeah, we have that feature in private preview. You can
Mhm.
manage things using G Cloud. You can tag things using versions and stuff like that. So, one use case is that workaround. Number two, sometimes you just have version files which don't have package management tools, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I think there's no problem in talking about this publicly. We had an interesting internal Google use case where, user was storing models, which they just had written in notebooks, which were
Okay.
previously stored in GCS and kind of unmanaged in terms of like versioning and things like that. But they just
Do they just version them with file names?
yeah, yeah, and
Like
that's
V1, V2?
yeah, that's
Mhm.
exactly,
Yeah.
and they were able to figure out a more like streamlined
Mhm.
solution for those kinds of files.
Mhm.
In artifact registry, right? And that's an example where there's not really a package management tool, there's not really a separate like code building step there. It's just something that I think just was running in a pipeline in a notebook, but just the
Mhm.
ability to version and store managing the version files rather than just throwing it in a GCS bucket in kind of the manner that you were describing is a much better solution. So um
I I am going to neither confirm nor deny whether I've ever just thrown stuff in a bucket before and called it a day.
yeah,
But I'll just say I understand.
yeah,
I
yeah,
understand how that happens.
yep, we've all done it. Yeah.
Yeah. So when they're doing that, that kind of talks about the metadata and like the metadata around the artifacts as they're
Mhm.
stored. Do you have some recommendations for what types of things people should add to that? Like any custom metadata tags that you would recommend?
So I think right now, from like the metadata perspective, the there's obviously provenance and attestation types of metadata, which, if you are using cloud build, today, you are able to basically have, like provenance signing, right? So you can validate that a artifact was actually built in cloud build, right? And that's attested to, and you're able to actually check before deployment on the GKE side through another solution through binary authorization. So using basically these solutions end to end. So if you have cloud build, artifact registry, um, uh, actually artifact registry and artifact analysis to be specific, alongside bin auth. So it's kind of a end to end first party product flow, and you're able to basically like end to end control. Okay, ensure that the build system actually built that artifact, and then control the deployment into things like the GKE, right? So that's one of the critical kind of metadata use cases. The other one is around vulnerabilities. So, I probably want to talk through, metadata can be a lot of things, but, I probably want to talk through just the kind of vulnerability use case as well. So, I'm going to back up a little bit. So, I want to talk first about artifact analysis, right? Because customers don't often, sometimes they get confused about like what is artifact analysis versus artifact registry, etc. So,
because they're two different products.
Yes, they're two different products, and they're so well integrated. Sometimes it's like, oh, well, is it just artifact registry? What is so? And we've done some rebranding around it, right? So, so artifact analysis is our universal scanning solution, right? Also, the provenance and attestation metadata is stored in artifact analysis and can be queried using the artifacts analysis API, which is called container analysis. That's confusing.
It's a whole other thing.
legacy name, but artifact analysis primarily allows you provides built-in scanning for a number of different artifacts, and similarly you are actually you're able to see you're able to see the vulnerability information inside AR surfaces, right? And just like the flow that I mentioned in controlling deployments based on provenance and attestations, you can also control the deployments based on vulnerability information. So you can do things like, hey, if I have critical vulnerabilities, don't deploy those things to GKE.
Yeah.
That's one of the core things.
Yeah. And that's huge.
That's
it's like, and it makes sense that it'd be surfaced within AR because you have that's where people are already looking at the thing, right? They're looking at their artifact, and then you can have right next to it like, hey, here's a view of what the the security vulnerability information related to that artifact is. So
yeah, absolutely. So it's a very natural surface for users to see their vulnerabilities. Artifact analysis also has its own functionality where advanced I think it's called advanced vulnerability insights on GKE side allows you to view vulnerabilities within the GKE surfaces outside of artifact registry on an ongoing basis, which is a really, really cool feature. And I think another example of GCP kind of enabling that end-to-end journey, right? Where we're able to provide that visibility, like not only at the artifact management level, but all the way into the runtime and provide controls on the runtime.
Yeah, that's pretty slick, actually. And it is the fact that where it was built, so you can attest to that. You can go through the whole thing and say, yeah, it was good here, it's good here,
Right.
and we're going to do another check over here. That's actually really kind of powerful stuff because
Exactly.
you don't always get that level of traceability. You know.
Exactly. And again, I can't get into too many details, but I will say this, hopefully won't get in trouble. You know, as you notice, these right now, these kind of journeys, end-to-end journeys, are very much focused on our first party products,
Mhm.
but we are looking at
We're considering some other things.
yes,
Is where you're going.
yeah, we're considering how to expand
There
um
you go.
the tools that we can support. So that's all I'll say. So
Yes.
I think I avoided getting in trouble, so,
Yeah.
uh,
So since we're kind of on the vulnerability thing, and I know it's a different product, but people always ask because they are so tightly kind of integrated at a surface level.
uh-huh.
We get questions all the time. Hey, I got this artifact in here. I built this container and it
Yeah.
scanned it when it was pushed. How do I get it to scan again? Right? And why don't we scan it again? Do you want to talk about that, or should I bring Greg in
Yeah,
to get into that one? It's a little bit dicey from a
yeah,
philosophy point of view.
it's I think yeah, I'll have to defer to my colleague Greg there. Yeah, I do know there's technical reasons. Scanning costs money,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
rescanning artifacts, I think that's we want that to be like, get users consent to do that rather than
Mhm.
just doing it automatically.
Yeah.
I think the advanced vulnerability insights on GKE like has a different model, which is built
Mhm.
into the like GKE pricing,
Yeah.
which and there's some continuous monitoring that they do there. But
Mhm.
again, please
Yeah.
don't quote me on any of that. I am not the artifact analysis expert, so we'll have to defer
Yeah.
on that one. But
All right. Well, I would definitely bring Greg in.
yeah,
Greg's the PM for that product. And okay, so artifact stuff. We kind of talk about some cool stuff that people can see in the future. We know what it can do today. We know all the different types of artifacts and how you can use a generic type if there's something that's not quite covered today, or you have just
yep.
your own stuff that you want to keep track of in a better way.
Hmm.
Um, is there anything else that you'd like people to know about artifact that you're like, you know what, it has this feature in here, and it's like no one ever knows about it, but it's the coolest thing.
Um, let me think about that for a second. Actually, you know what? I do want to highlight one feature that
Mhm.
I think even I think is not very well known. Image streaming is basically a caching solution which allows you to dramatically um decrease the startup time if you are using GKE. And again, we talked about regions, regionality and the importance of regionality. I believe even multi regions are supported in certain cases, but basically, if you store your containers in the same region, right, as
Mhm.
GK is running, you can use image streaming, which is a dramatic performance improvement. A lot of customers, especially large ones that are very kind of conscious about performance,
Mhm.
they have used artifact, right? They have moved to artifact registry for at least managing containers because of this advantage. And this is only available in AR. It is not available in container registry. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and
yeah,
right there, I mean, it's like there are so many other reasons to move forward, like with tech, and AR has the cool stuff. And I'm glad you brought up the image streaming because I think it was like this week, maybe it was last week. We announced that it also works with cloud workstations. So
yes,
that's which is kind of slick actually. It's like we're able to leverage this stuff in a lot of different places in a lot of different ways, and all of them build a really cool experience. And I like it when the teams are kind of working together, and like, you have something really cool over here that also works over there,
Yeah,
because it really is about that end-to-end journey. You know.
exactly. Exactly. It's all about enabling end-to-end journeys, and I think that's where GCP is really differentiated, right? Like,
Mhm.
for example, something like image streaming, just that's where our kind of competitive differentiation is. That's kind of the end-to-end, you know uh optimizing that end-to-end journey, is that's
Mhm.
where we can provide this type of functionality, because we do have visibility into the
Mhm.
runtime, and we can have these optimizations for deployment into the runtime,
Mhm.
which is just often not possible with
Yeah.
other solutions
Yeah, and they're really
outside.
cool runtimes too. Like, every time I play with Cloud Run, I'm like, I can't believe this even works. You know?
So
It's like it takes so little to set it up, and then it just kind of goes. And it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay.
I mean, I think that personally, I mean, that's one of the big driving factors for cloud adoption as a whole,
Mhm.
right? Is the ease of management of the runtime. I think that's what primarily brings people to cloud.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
yeah,
one of the better aspects of it,
right,
and
right. It used to be,
yeah,
you don't have to manage your VMs, but turns out now we can do a lot better than that. So
yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah. What's a VM? I don't know. I don't care.
yeah,
I have
yeah, yeah.
serverless.
Not to take anything
um,
away from our friends at GCE, they're
oh,
still
oh no. I
it's still one of the biggest, most popular products, Google Cloud. So
people
VMs
people
are not
know
go
VM.
VMs are not going away. Is what we like to say. So
Yeah. Come on, you're an app mod. We can talk.
yeah, yeah, we could say that.
um, all right. So, this is the insider part where we talk about like calls to action.
Yeah.
What do you want folks to take away from this conversation?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So
Mhm.
number one, I encourage everybody to watch out for the next announcements. Like I said, I did not go into details, but um we are releasing a lot of cool stuff. We're going to talk a lot more about third party. Please attend. Shameless plug for Nate. Please attend Nate's talk. For what's your talk called, Nate?
It's what's new in DevOps.
Yes, yes. What's new in DevOps? So we will be highlighting a number of the capabilities that we talked about.
Yeah.
Nate's going to talk about it from an end-to-end
Mhm.
perspective, but there will be mention of many of artifact registry features. And then
Mhm.
I would look out for specifically, like, I don't actually know what the names of the talks are, but
Mhm.
anything GitLab and AR. There's going to be a number of sessions around that.
Mhm.
So keep in mind, that's number one.
Indeed.
Number two, I would say, this is for the more technical folks
Mhm.
here that are listening. Um, Look at our release notes, actually, because given you know how large GCP is, we don't have like huge marketing motions for every feature, right? We just
Mhm.
can't do that. We tend to, just have, kind of, big
Mhm.
blogs and stuff for the
Yeah.
major features. Sometimes we roll up things, but,
Mhm.
really, that
And the
doesn't
release
mean
cadence
there
was
are.
ridiculously fast too.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And we just just don't have, so that release notes are a great
Mhm.
way to look at like incremental features that get released. For example, I mentioned things like custom remotes, etc. These are things that are coming like very soon. Even you might see something the next few weeks. If you're a um technical user, a developer, please, our release notes, best it can be a bit detailed, I know, but keep, all you'll find all the information there,
Yeah.
for things that are coming up. Oh, and I guess one last thing, I don't know if we're taking in new participants in this, but We do have a trusted testers group. We don't do that many private previews anymore. But that is also one way to keep in touch. Also, even aside from that, we actually send emails when we release preview features, and we have GA
Mhm.
features, just because there's a lot of customers that just have eyeballs on that. So
Yeah. Yeah, and to
um
be clear, that's all opt in. When you opt in, that's
yeah,
when we can send you an email.
yes, only this is
Yeah.
only based on opt-in. We're
Mhm.
definitely do not want to spam you with emails. We are not allowed to do that. But yes, this is opt-in, and I do think if you can request, it's an informal Google group that basically we manage. So if you're interested in that, shout. But yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, I think we pretty much covered it. Are we gonna have time for any audience questions, Nate?
Let
Or
me
I don't
see.
know if we have
I've
any.
been kind of checking some of the sources. I think Twitter or X is clear. I'm
Okay,
gonna refresh LinkedIn real quick. Let's see.
okay.
It is clear.
If anybody has any last minute questions,
Yeah, I probably should have started off. I'm I gotta get better at this hosting thing. Like I realized I probably should have led with, please start queuing your questions. We will get to them. But so far we seem to be in the clear. Um,
okay.
although I think
Yeah,
Greg might have saw some of it. But anyways,
okay.
um, I guess we can go now. The other thing with questions, these streams tend to live on, right? So they're going to stay up on LinkedIn. It's going to stay up on Twitter and stay up on YouTube. So if anyone has any questions, you can drop them in the comments. We'll read them, we'll catch them, and we'll answer them. So if you did not see this live, it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess one last thing that I guess I can touch on is also we do have like developer relationship channels. So I know we have a Slack channel, right,
Mhm,
Nate, and then we
mhm,
have Stack Exchange groups. Anything else,
mhm.
Nate, that you want to call out that you can join for
Yeah,
information?
their Discord channels,
Yeah,
Yaks. Like when someone has a problem, that's probably the other one, right? You know, yeah, we can talk about this. I guess it's like how we see these things, how these things get surfaced up to us, right? They kind of get rolled up, and we see like honestly every question someone has almost, and it's
yeah,
interesting because it gives some cool insights into like how people are using the product and how they want to use the product. And that goes a long
right,
way in terms of like feature development and those sort of things.
right.
So yeah,
Um,
um, I
yeah,
think that might be about it.
I think so. Does this go until 11:15, Nate, or
You can go
if
as long as you want.
go okay?
Yeah,
I actually, if we since we don't have any questions, I do
mhm.
want to cover one more topic that I just want
Go
to
for it.
make sure that customers are aware of. Um, so GCR, right? So, I want to be open and candid. The container registry is on its path towards going away.
Mhm.
Container registry is already a deprecated product as of last year.
Yeah.
We are,
Yeah, that's not a surprise. It's already out
it's
there.
not a surprise.
We've written
We
it everywhere.
reached out. So
Mhm.
we've actually already sent out MSAs if you're using container registry, which uh, for the various restrictions. So let me actually walk through this because it can be there's kind of a lot to track, and it can be a little confusing. So today we've by default, right, container registry, if you are coming into GCP new as a completely new org,
Mhm.
basically uh any gcr.io repository is
Mhm.
automatically hosted on artifact registry, right? So
Okay. Yeah, so
um
that's already been flipped over. Like
Yes.
if you see a GCR.io on something that you create today,
Yeah.
from some other Google service,
Right.
it's on
Right.
AR. Okay.
Exactly. And natively you cannot use the container registry service. Now, coming in May, we will be restricting, and the announcements for this has already been made. We will be restricting new projects from using container registry, right?
Yeah.
So new projects within existing organizations. Um, you should read through our documentation, but if you can continue to use gcr.io endpoints, this is kind of the confusing part. GCR.io endpoints, GCR.io repositories does not equal using the container registry service. So we do maintain backward compatibility with GCR.io repository behavior, but it does require some changes on your side. And most of those are in permissioning. So, the permissions for artifact registry and container registry differ. Now, the we will in the next few weeks here, and I think there's no problem in saying this publicly. We've told many customers this already. But we are planning to release additional tooling, which will help you with additional automation and guidance for upgrading from container registry to artifact registry. So I think now's the time to plan, but definitely look out, like in the next couple weeks for you know advancements in that. Our goal, the customer principle, is to make things as frictionless and as possible, to make things as flexible. So like I said, we've maintained backward compatibility. If you want to continue using gcr.io domains, that is fully supported in artifact registry. We recognize that for customers sometimes it's a non-starter to change all their build tooling to the native pkg.dev domain. All of that is on all of that is outlined in our documentation. Now, again, I don't want to get in trouble again, but I do want to just mention that artifact registry is on the I'm sorry, container registry, not artifact registry. Container registry is on the path towards going away. I just want to say that.
Oh my God, you're gonna break some real news here.
Yeah, exactly. And look out for announcements. We are going to be making announcing timelines around further restrictions around container registry, and really now is the time to plan your move. For a lot of customers, I think our new tooling will be very advantageous. But it is the time to move is now. And especially if there are any large customers listening here, I want to be open and make it abundantly clear that, like, please do not rely on exceptions or other things. We will provide you with ample time, by the way, to do this. We will help you. We are actually hand holding many customers. Again, I'm not going to make a promise for everyone, but we are helping as many customers as we can. So we want to partner with this. We are not pulling out the rug from under customers. So you will have ample time. As any breaking change, there's going to be 1 year of notice. But I just really want to impress upon the audience and everybody, if you're using container registry, please, the time to move is now. Prepare, if you prepare for it now, by the time when it goes away, you won't have to worry about it. And it'll be a more seamless transition, and it also gives us more time to be able to help you. So I want to say that, and just this is kind of in the spirit of being open and candid with customers. I think this is super important. So yeah, please, and please, if you are, especially for the larger GCR customers, please keep in mind, you'll see some new functionality, as I mentioned, and some announcements that are coming down the line that are going to be critical for this.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the other part is, I'll add this to it. Just because we offer help doesn't mean everyone needs it.
Yes,
A
yes,
lot of customers have already, made their conversion.
that's right.
It's gone fine.
Yeah.
There's tons of documentation that's already been out there, and some of the things that we've done behind the scenes,
Oh,
that Rishi and his team has already put in place, makes that a lot easier. So what he's talking about are additional tools
that's
that
correct.
may be coming.
That's correct.
But yeah, the stuff that's out there now, a lot of folks have had great success with it.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah. And yeah, Nate, I'm really glad you called that out. Like, yeah, we've had a number of large customers, right? Migrate successfully. And for a lot of customers, you know, they don't want to move off
mhm,
of GCR domain right away, and
yeah,
and that's why we have the feature, right? Yes,
mhm,
you don't get all the advantages of natively moving to pkg.dev. That being said, that's a journey. For a lot of customers, they plan to do that in the future, but the immediate step is just enabling the gcr.io domain support. So yeah, we have the tools. We have the backward compatibility current tools. As Nate, you mentioned, they work great. We're working on making the
mhm,
process even better. So
yeah,
there's always room for improvement, and so that's that.
nice. It's a great way to put it.
Yeah,
All right, we got a little more time, so let's go with one other.
I'm happy to
Um,
go extra.
yeah, just a little bit here. Um, and I'm going to go back to that remote repos deal.
Yeah,
So
talk about that.
we have remote repos, and there's an authentication feature for remote
Mhm.
repos that I don't know if everyone kind of understands. You want to talk about that a little bit, and like where someone might use that feature?
Yes, yes. So, one of the features that we recently rolled out is our remote repository authentication to Docker specifically.
Mhm.
So, as people might already know in the call, Docker Hub is one of the kind of critical repositories for containers that a lot of customers are using for container management.
Yeah,
Now,
it was like the only place I knew of for a while, for the
yeah,
longest.
yeah, and sometimes you just
Mhm.
if you type in Docker pull, it automatically goes, I think, to Docker
Yeah.
Hub, right? So, um, Docker they not super recently, but I think the change was in 2020. They actually rolled out a new business model where they would charge based on the pull. So there's a
Mhm.
pull quota, and and that makes complete sense for them. So there were various pull quotas that were instated, right? And one of the things this feature allows you to do is to actually authenticate to Docker Hub to be able to buy and use your own pull quota, right? So
Nice.
this allows you to prevent things like you might if you're over pull quota, which a lot of customers are, it can interfere with your build pipelines, right? So
Mhm.
it provides you that ability to be able to authenticate. The other thing that it actually does is um whenever you rely on a uh third party service, right? Like you are dependent on uh its reliability, right?
Mhm.
And you don't and if you're pulling things from Docker Hub, which is just outside of artifact registry, you don't really have an audit trail around like what things are actually coming in, and when
Yeah.
those things are even being pulled, right? So what this functionality allows you to do, number one, you can use your own quota, which is I'll still be candid. I'll say, that's kind of the primary mode. That was the primary motivation.
Mhm.
But secondary motivation is, you can cache these things just like you can from, public, you can cache these things in in Docker that
Yeah.
also may be private, right? So
Yeah.
using that auth allows you to also cache private packages in
Nice.
Docker Hub, right? So that's a
Mhm.
secondary benefit that you get through the
Yeah.
authentication feature. The third one is around that audit trail and security, right? Going through going through remote repositories, helps you have the controls there. So you're not just making ad hoc pulls to a third party repositories with no audit trail. So those are kind of the um three main things.
Nice. Yeah, and then like we talked about before, you could even combine remote repos along with a virtual repo. So maybe
Yeah,
you have
of
one that
course.
goes out to Docker Hub, and you have one that goes to your local
Yeah,
source.
of
Yeah.
course. Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of that, with our previous functionality, the caching portion that I mentioned, you get with, the non-authenticated
Mhm.
public Docker Hub, but you do not get the tying from uh to the actual user, right? There's not,
Yeah.
making non-authenticated um requests kind of has that disadvantage from a security perspective. Just one best practice, like if you are using Docker Hub, relying on Docker Hub heavily, you should always authenticate. I
Yeah.
think the OCI guidance, what they say is, if you can, actually the best practice, and we published a blog on this as well, the best practice is to actually copy those things locally and use packages that you need, store them locally,
Yeah.
store them in something like artifact registry. But if you're not able to do that, then absolutely authenticate. And I think our documentation here um talks about it and links to the Docker documentation. But be aware of, if you're making unauthenticated requests, be aware of what your pull limits are,
Hmm.
because you can, for making unauthenticated requests, you can run into those pull limits um
Yeah.
very, very often if you're running into any, with running at any sort of scale. So,
Yeah. And
yeah,
that's usually like at the enterprise scale. Individual
yeah,
developers, I'd be shocked if they ever hit it.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about scale. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. If you're running a small application, with, not, it's you're not that many, dependencies, etc.
Hmm.
It's fine. But yes, it's really around, the larger applications, lot people operating at larger scale is what you need to worry about. Yeah.
All right. Oh, okay. If you got
People
five more
do big
minutes,
builds.
if you got 5 more minutes,
Yeah, I absolutely.
I okay, cool. So we talked about this at the top of the show. Dependency management. Um, what what does that mean for the person who's kind of coming at artifact management new? What are these dependencies? Why is it a big deal? Why should they care where this stuff is coming from? I
Yeah.
know it's a lot.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's kind of a lot.
I think that's a lot. I think dependency management has various angles, right?
Mhm.
Um, Part of what we talked about on the dependency management side is um reliability,
Mhm.
performance, and the last one is control. I think what your question kind of alludes to is the control piece, right?
Mhm.
So, I think broadly, um, you know, there's a need for customers and users to be aware of what is coming into their supply chain, right? So and again, we're fairly early days. We don't have anything launched in the market to address this problem, but where we are trying to go is to provide like additional security controls on top of the dependency management functionality that we already have. I should take that back slightly. We provide the controls like virtual repositories, right?
Yeah.
But I consider those like first level controls. It is very similar to the controls that majority of other majority of other artifact management solutions also have in the market, correct?
Yeah, you kind of look at it as like a base level feature, right? It's like you got to have at least that.
Exactly. It's a base level must have feature. I think, and again, I have to caveat this is very early days, but I think we do have some opportunities to explore, whether we can provide additional controls around what actually can enter your supply chain, right? And again, I don't think this level of control isn't necessarily appropriate for all customers, but for those that are very security conscious, operating in regulated environments, right?
That's a big one.
This is very common. And, I think I can say this publicly. We are, experimenting and testing out some really like I would call like second order dependency management controls internally here at Google, because we do tend to be very security conscious. We're working on kind of building those features out for internal teams, kind of addressing those use cases, and then exploring how we can potentially we can potentially release those features for our external customers as well, for those kinds of security focused use cases. Really, I think dependency management, as you put it, it's kind of a layered cake. I think we've almost built the foundation. First layer is coming, but I think we have opportunities to build the house, and it's we'll see what comes out of that. But yeah,
that is very well said. There's we do stuff, but there's still more that we want to do.
Yes. And
when we see an opportunity, you kind of want to do something.
That's right. And I think here I think it allows us to, again, like, we have a lot of internal customers within Google for artifact registry, right? This is probably something like of confidence to people in the call. If you're looking to invest more in artifact registry, well, we're eating our own dog food. Or I liked how I used to work at New Relic. Our chief product officer, CEO, I can't remember who said it exactly. He said, "Drinking your own champagne." So I like that. We drink our own champagne by using artifact registry across a number of critical areas across Google. But this is an opportunity to, I think, look at what some of our internal teams need, and externalize that to the market, which is something I think we've done many times at Google, right? Like, didn't GKE start off as a it wasn't that as an internal like Google project and then externalized? So.
I mean, there are people who can get way more into the details, and I'll stay away from that one because I'm sure folks have some very strong opinions.
Strong opinions. Anyway,
and technicalities.
That's what I heard before. But we have a paradigm, and I think here we have an opportunity to do that as well, especially on the security side. So
nice. All right. Well, I mean, I think we've covered a lot of cool stuff.
I think so.
But we've also more open for you to come back. After net. And we can maybe go into like a 200 level talk about some of those features. you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think next is a good point to reconvene. We can. I think we'll also be able to share additional details, like you said, around
Exactly.
what's been released. What's coming, etc. So, yeah, I think that sounds good. Thank you, Nate, for hosting this. And yeah, that was a really good conversation. And I really hope this was useful for the people that are viewing this and for people that are yet to view if they're seeing a recording or something like that. So,
There you
um,
go. Yeah.
yeah,
For now and in the
much
future.
for those that
Thank you
use.
for being here, man.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
being open and just chatting about this stuff.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I can talk about this stuff all day. But yeah, and I also want to say like thank you for all the users that are using GCP, and if you use artifact registry or container registry, thanks for investing in this. We obviously, I'm biased, but we think we're doing some really interesting stuff here, solving some core problems, and yeah, just thanks for believing in us, I guess. So I'll leave off with.
All right.
All
Take
right.
care, everyone. All right.
Take
And
care.
we're going to
Take
end the
care,
stream.
everybody. Bye.